You know that feeling, right? You walk away from a conversation and you just know you and the other person were on completely different planets. It happens to all of us. But what if I told you there's a simple, learnable pattern that could totally transform those interactions? Well, today, we're going to dive into a framework that does exactly that.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll ask the big question. Are we actually listening? Then, we'll unpack this four-step model called the discourse pattern. After that, we're going to zoom in on two of the most critical skills, paraphrasing and asking better questions. And finally, we'll put it all together into a tool you can start using like today.
Okay, so first things first, before we can build any new communication habits, we've got to figure out what's tripping us up in the first place. And the biggest culprit? You guessed it, it's all about how we listen. I want you to take a second and be really honest with yourself on this one. When someone else is talking, is your brain already firing up, crafting your response, thinking of your counterargument, or maybe your own story? Or are you 100% focused on what they are trying to say? The answer to that, well, it's a total game changer. See, most of us, most of the time, fall into one of four common traps. We can call them listening blocks. They're kind of like these mental shortcuts that actually stop us from hearing what's really being said. Let's start with probably the most common one. This one is called personal listening. It's that moment when someone shares a problem and your brain immediately goes, oh, that reminds me of the time, or, I once had a student just like that. Now, it feels like you're being helpful, right? You're connecting. But you've actually stopped listening to their story and started replaying your own. And that's really the heart of the problem. Personal listening, and the other blocks too, like getting bogged down in details or trying to predict what someone's going to say, they just stop true understanding dead in its tracks. So the big question is, how do we get past these blocks? Well, we need a new roadmap. And that is exactly where the discourse pattern comes in. It's a simple, repeatable, and, believe me, incredibly powerful framework. And here it is. This is our tool. This simple little cycle is the key to keeping conversations focused, present, and actually productive. It might look really basic, but trust me, getting this down can change everything. So the pattern has four really clear steps. First, you actually listen. And remember, you're listening to understand, not to reply. Second, and this is so important, you pause. Just for a beat. Let it sink in. Third, you paraphrase what you heard back to them. And fourth, you inquire. You ask a really thoughtful question. We're going to dig into those last two a bit more. Okay, paraphrasing. This is way, way more than just being a parrot and repeating their words back to them. This is the skill that basically proves you were listening, and it makes absolutely sure that you're both talking about the same thing. What's so cool about this is how it breaks down paraphrasing into three different jobs. You can use it to clarify a feeling by saying something like, so you're feeling really frustrated with this. You can use it to summarize by saying, in other words, the main thing is, or if they've said a lot, you can organize it for them. So it sounds like a couple of things are going on for you. This is like your practical cheat sheet. All right, so you've listened, you've paused, you've paraphrased. Now it's time to inquire. But here's the trick. Not all questions are created equal. We want to ask questions that open up the conversation, not shut it down. Just look at the difference here. A narrow question like, why is the student off task? It just sounds accusatory, doesn't it? It implies there's one right answer. But look at the shift when you ask an invitational question. What might be some reasons for the student's behavior? It completely changes the energy. It invites curiosity and teamwork instead of defensiveness. So how do you actually do this? Well, here's the recipe. Try using plurals, words like reasons or options. Start your questions with invitational phrases like, how might you? And try swapping out words, like changing the word is to seems. It softens the whole question and opens things up. Okay, so we've looked at the listening blocks that get in our way, we've walked through the four-step pattern, and we've drilled down on paraphrasing and asking better questions. Now, let's put it all together. And here we are, right back to our simple, powerful cycle. This is your new habit. You listen to really get where they're coming from. You pause to actually process it. You paraphrase to make sure you've got it right. And then you inquire to help them explore their own ideas even further. It's this beautiful, complete loop of real communication. So I've got one last question, and this one's for you. Knowing this stuff is great, but actually doing it is everything. So think about the week you have coming up. Maybe a meeting at work, a chat with your kid, a talk with your partner. What is one conversation where you are going to intentionally try this out? Just give it a shot. I think you'll be amazed at what happens.